Okay, excellent job. I think we should be done, but apparently we're not. So, okay, so just as a healthy habits with our body and our physical nature can create some areas in which it will cultivate a mental wellness aspect. Healthy thinking or our healthy mind allows us to have an overall healthier healthier outlook on life. So I want to talk about our thinking and how that can affect us. Just how it can affect us, like she said, it's so interwoven, how it affects us completely, how it affects the way we feel about ourselves, which might affect how our body reacts to things, which might affect how we interact with people, which might affect, the list goes on. So we want to address what might be the issue here with our thinking. So unfortunately, a lot of our thinking is unconscious. We have some conscious thoughts, but there's a lot of things that just kind of happen unconsciously. And you're like, whoa, like she said, whoa, why was I scared at that dog? That happened. I don't understand why that happened, but okay. And sometimes it can put us in a negative space because we had a thought and we've allowed it to maintain in a negative, we allow ourselves to maintain in a negative headspace. So I'm going to come up with this. So I've come up with a scenario, and we're going to kind of do a little self-inventorying about how that might affect us. So say you and I pass each other in the hallway out here. You look at me, say hi, and smile at me. And I don't acknowledge that. I just keep walking and don't smile back, don't acknowledge the wave, don't say hi back. There's some things that might happen to you when that happens. You might start thinking, that was incredibly rude. How dare she ignore me? What gives her the right to think she's better, that she doesn't need to respond when I've clearly given the wave, the hi? That's rude. How ill-mannered. Why would she behave that way? Joy is just a rude person. Conclusion, Joy's a jerk. That's what you come up with. That's one thought. Another person, that same interaction might happen. Another person might think, oh my word, I just waved and smiled and said hello to her. She didn't respond. Is she mad at me? Did I do something wrong? Well, are we in a fight that I don't know about? Why do I do things wrong? Why do I always mess up? Why do people not like me? What did I do wrong that makes me not to where people, they just don't like me. They don't choose me. Why am I constantly feeling this rejection? What did I do wrong? That might be a second type of thinking. Or we have the third scenario, and I've only come up with 3. There's probably 15, but I only came up with 3. So we have the third scenario. We pass each other in the hallway. You wave hi, say hello. I keep walking, don't acknowledge it. You pause. That was odd. She must have been preoccupied. Maybe she didn't hear me. Of those 3, it's pretty obvious which one might be the healthiest thinking that you would have come up with. Of those 3 in this setting, we can logically come up with the idea that choice 3 or choice C was the right one. That's clearly an option there. But how often are we in that moment and we get caught in choice A or B? How often do we misread a situation or attribute motives in a situation that causes our thinking to start going in that negative space? It happens all the time. It just depends on how we're going to allow our brain to think in a more positive light. And so it's one of those things to be aware that this can happen. It's another thing to figure out how to stop it and how to address it and how to make sure that you don't continue living in that space. Okay? So it's obvious. So while choice C was the obvious one, let's do some self-inventory. Let's make sure that we are the type that allow ourselves the idea that choice C could have really been what happened. Okay? So the cure for this is just to recognize if I start going down that path of choice A to where I end up, Joy's a jerk, okay? Because she ignored me. She did it on purpose. Everything was wrong there. She was just a jerk. She wasn't paying attention. She's stuck up. She doesn't like people. If I start going down that headspace, there needs to be a time where I'm consciously aware that, hey, this is negative. I'm borrowing trouble here. I'm perceiving things that may not be truth. And I need to stop myself and say, are there alternative options that could be the truth here? At any rate, it's important for you to recognize when you are thinking all those negative thoughts, nobody outside of your head knows that negativity is happening. You could absolutely hate me for being the jerk that you perceived me to be, but I don't know that. It's not hurting me that you're thinking that I'm a jerk. It's only hurting you. So that negative thinking is going to cause you to start doubting yourself, mistrusting people. You might, in any other situation, if another scenario presents itself where you feel ignored or feel overlooked, you might perceive, well, that person's a jerk too. At some point, not the whole world is a jerk. Maybe we have something wrong, okay? Something wrong in our thinking. So it's important to recognize when that's happening. If I'm the other person who just takes responsibility for everything bad in the world and feels like I've caused all the hardships and, well, she doesn't like me, why is she mad? And I have immediately assumed that responsibility, again, I don't have any idea that you're feeling that. You're assuming that responsibility that may be totally mislaid and it is mislaid and misguided. Like nobody, there was no conversation that led you to believe or that overtly told you, hey, I'm mad at you. You should feel badly about that. You did something wrong. There was no conversation. There was no exchange of information that indicated that. You perceived all of that, and you perceived it all right here. Okay, so there's some reasons why these are some automatic thoughts, and that's what I really want to address. We might have core beliefs that are developed very young in life. Maybe some trauma that happened to us, maybe some events that seem to happen at very pivotal moments in our life that caused us to believe certain things about ourselves, and because of that, we have constructed our entire life based on that core belief that is misguided. Perhaps you experienced acute rejection as a child, or you had a parent who walked out on you, or you were abused as a child. You can develop some core beliefs that are misguided based on that, and you don't even know that you're projecting that misguided belief on other situations. You're not aware that that is what's happening, but that is what's happening. Okay? So a core belief starts, it can be something like, I'm worthless. People just naturally don't like me. I'm always misunderstood. I'm unlovable. It can be that dark. It can be that dark. I guess there's no other way to phrase it. So that can be a core belief that I can look at scenarios and automatically misread that I'm unlovable. People are going to treat me badly. So I either have to take responsibility for it and try to turn myself into a pretzel to please everyone, or I'm going to be an advocate and I'm going to stand up for myself and I'm going to be a vigilante on my own behalf, and the whole world's going to pay because they're not going to treat me that way. Again, the whole world can't be a jerk. So let's retrain our thinking a little bit. It's really important to recognize that feelings are not facts. Just because I feel something, and I'm not trying to invalidate feelings here or emotions here, just because I feel something doesn't necessarily make it a fact. Okay? I have to think it through. I have to recognize that there are alternative options to perhaps what I perceive to have happened in that moment. So we've got the core belief that could be wrong. We also have some faulty logics. Those sometimes dovetail into core beliefs. A misguided core belief, we already discussed. A faulty logic based on that core belief that I am, remember I gave the scenario of you might have been abused by a father figure, or you might have had a parent walk out on you. Based on that, I'm going to assume that every person in authority is untrustworthy. Logically speaking, that's been my experience. I can't trust them. That's a faulty logic. My thinking's going to be that I can't trust people in authority. I'm in this whole big world by myself. I have to figure things out. That's a very lonely way to live. That's a very lonely way to try to succeed in life, and your social interactions are going to be impacted by it. Okay? So it's really important that we start addressing these things when we first learn them. So having a healthier mind, recognizing that immediate negative thinking is key. Giving yourself alternative options to what could possibly be the truth here is the second step. Okay? And recognizing when I start allowing there to be alternative options, such as, oh, maybe Joy just didn't see me, or maybe she didn't hear me, that's taking us both off the hook. I'm showing mercy to this individual who has no idea that I'm having this war in my mind. I'm showing mercy to myself by allowing myself to believe that, hey, maybe people just aren't mad at me. Maybe I am worth something. Maybe people can actually like me. And that's a positive thing too. You're improving your self-concept or your self-worth, self-affirming. We feel better about ourselves, so our social interactions are going to be healthier. And healthy emotions allow us to rationalize better. You will get better at this, but you have to start noticing it now. So in a nutshell, healthy emotions allow us to socialize better, allow us to rationalize better, allow us just to think better thoughts about ourselves. You'll sleep better, all the things that she discussed as far as being a physical element, that kind of, are in our body, that kind of stuff will start happening a little easier for you. The Word of God routinely gives us advice on how we should be thinking. It tells us to set our affections or our thoughts on things above. Don't get caught up with what's going on down here. Don't perceive someone is mad at you just to borrow that kind of trouble. Okay, and I know I'm using the word don't here, but I want you to understand I'm speaking the truth in love here. Try your best to be conscious and aware of when that happens. If you text a friend and they take a half a second longer than you think they should to respond, their phone might be away from them. They might be in a crowded room and just not have the emotional capacity to answer you in that second. They're not mad at you. They're not ignoring you. Show them some mercy there. So in those moments, show some mercy. Set your affections and your thoughts on things above. Don't get caught up on things on the earth. And lastly, Philippians 4:8. This is the key to healthy thinking. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. In a nutshell, that is what we are supposed to do. If it's lovely, if it's virtuous, if it's of good report, if it's true, think about it. Otherwise, allow it to roll off you and set your affections on things above, because that's where they belong anyway. I love you and thank you for listening.